Hi guys. So I wanted to expand my bubble. So I've been talking about this in the live stream where maybe my channel has become something of an echo chamber, and a lot of the comments that appear in the on the channel recently it has changed somewhat, but until recently it has been pretty much solid support of me and people who agree with me. And I wanted to talk about on the live stream, the last live stream, how I want to open up this, and I want to expose myself to different points of view, because for me it benefits me a great deal to experience other points of view. So I'm going to talk a little bit here. I'm going to respond to this YouTuber, Mahyar Tousi. I'm butchering his name. No offense to him. No offense meant at all. He's a Brexiteer. I think he's from Indian or Pakistani origin. Now, people may say, well, why is that relevant? Well, for me, it's strange because to be a Brexiteer, you align yourself with people who would be very much inclined, I'm not saying all of them, but a large portion of people who supported Brexit would be very much inclined to tell him to go back to his own country. You know, the type of people who complain about people not speaking English, or, people of a different colour damaging British society in some way. He's a Brexiteer, and that's his choice. I just find it strange that someone being from Indian or Pakistani, I think, origin would choose to support or align themselves with Brexiteers who, if given enough power, would probably ask people like him to go back to his own country. But let's hear what he has to say in regards to the Labour, what he calls the rejoiners in the Labour Party.
We knew until now Rebecca Long-Bailey, who is a Corbynista, hard left socialist, and Jeremy Corbyn's pet, was the front runner. And then alongside her we had Keir Starmer, but also Emily Thornberry. Now the situation is things are slowly changing because momentum are actually getting weaker for some reason. Now Keir Starmer on the left is obviously the Shadow Secretary of State for Brexit, and Rebecca Long-Bailey, who's the obviously, as we said, Corbyn's pet. Both they're from different sides of the party, and you also have Emily Thornberry, who's also a massive Remainer. She's standing on a platform of Remain/Rejoin.
Okay, this is a problem I have with this Brexiteer, and Brexiteers in general. They seem to think that the Labour Party is now split between Leave and Remain. I'm sorry to disappoint you, and I know it's disappointing for your narrative, but the Labour Party is not split between Leave and Remain. Remain is dead, and I speak as a Remainer, someone who supported, I should say, Remain. And if you don't believe me, look at my channel, and I haven't hid this fact, but Remain is dead. People are talking about Rejoin. Okay, fine. But it's not going to be something that's going to happen for another at least 5 years. Boris Johnson is going to be in charge, and any chance that the UK would rejoin the European Union is not going to happen anytime soon. So the idea of people who are calling themselves rejoiners, okay, that's fine. But they're a very small minority. But the conflict in the Labour Party is not between Remain and Leave. It's between the left and the rest, which some people will say the centre and some people will say the right. But your framing is completely wrong from the get-go. The party is not split between Remain and Leave. It's split ideologically between the left and the centre and the right, if you want to call them.
Now, Emily Thornberry is also being pushed out, just like Rebecca Long-Bailey, in favour of Keir Starmer. Now, the reason...
I don't like the way he says pushed out. Pushed out by whom? There is a consolidation of power within the party, but nobody's being pushed out. The members within the party are deciding who is best to run the party. And there are different wings within the party, the same as there are different wings in every party. There are moderates in every party, there are people on the right in every party, there are people on the left in every party. And there's always a jockeying for position, a jockeying for power within these parties. It's not somebody who's been pushed out of the what? Out of the party? I'm not trying to nitpick here, but his use of language is very important, because look, I'm a small time YouTuber. He has on this channel, on this video, 110,000 views. So he has quite a platform here. He has quite a soapbox. So I think it's important that he uses the right terminology.
And for that is because even Momentum, even Corbynistas have always been divided. This is exactly why Jeremy Corbyn has been sitting on the fence for the past couple of years. So there's a situation where the younger members of Momentum are obviously still hard left socialists, but actually their priority is the European Union.
The priority is not the European Union. Part of their priority, I don't even know where you're getting the idea that the Momentum people's priority was the European Union. They're socialists. Their priorities were completely different things. Their priorities were social justice, the minimum wage, increasing the minimum wage, representation of women and ethnic minorities in the party, dealing with racism. These were their priorities. The European Union was a side project for them. That's why Jeremy Corbyn was not so... he wasn't pressured by Momentum so much to support Remain. He was pressured by the party, but it wasn't Momentum. Towards the end, yes, they were saying, okay, we need to make a decision here. But the core of Momentum is not about the European Union. Many people in Momentum are against the European Union.
They're obsessed with this whole European identity, and they've been pushing Corbyn to be more pro-Remain and second referendum. And then
the second referendum, but this is not what they were on about. Corbyn was dragged kicking and screaming to the Remain side because the party needed that. The majority of people in the party and supported the party supported Remain. But it's not because of Momentum.
The members of Momentum are less concerned about the EU. They're more concerned about communism and nationalising everything and taking over the whole industries. So this battle is actually getting interesting because the older ones are losing their battle. The younger ones are there to push for a candidate that's going to be more pro-Remain. Now,
once again, pro-Remain. Remain is dead. Remain is gone. Why do you keep focusing on the Labour Party? The Labour Party wanting someone who is pro-Remain. I understand Brexiteers want to frame this as we are Brexit and they are Remain. We are the good guys, they're the bad guys. But it's no longer that way. Until Boris Johnson won his majority, we could talk in the terms of Remain or leave. But that's dead now. It's completely it's off the shelf. It's gone. Off the shelf isn't the right term, but you know what I mean. This is out of discussion. Now the discussion is between left and centre, or centre-right in the Labour Party.
Now the question is why they're not going behind Emily Thornberry? Why are they choosing Keir Starmer? Now in this video we're going to talk about that, and that's because of the links with Jeremy Corbyn and the credibility. So we have a situation where Sir Keir Starmer is now appearing to be the front runner in the race to become the next leader, even though until a couple of weeks ago, he was actually considering to pull out because obviously he has the support of dozens of MPs, but considering you need 21 to actually make it onto the ballot paper. One soft Labour MP has told the Daily Express that his rival for the pro-EU vote, who is Emily Thornberry, has been attempting to ramp up support for a candidacy over the recent days, but that is just falling on deaf ears. They said Emily Thornberry called and texted several times and she's desperate and they had to pick up the phone out of politeness, but they're not actually going to back her. Now,
okay, but this is a speculation from someone. This is hearsay. I don't know why you're using this as evidence. It's hearsay from someone, a soft Labour supporter. What the hell is a soft Labour supporter? You either support Labour or you don't. I'm not a Labour supporter. So I don't call myself a soft Labour supporter. But this is, this is an attempt to feed into a narrative.
This goes back to leadership. There's a whole difference between picking a candidate based on being a hard left socialist or a Remainer, but there's also a third.
I don't. A hard left socialist or a Remainer? Really, how does this guy have so many views on his channel? So the framing is you're either a hard left socialist or you're a Remainer. But Remain has nothing to do with socialism. And socialism has nothing to do with remaining or leaving the European Union. How does this guy... He seems to be so blinded by Brexit that he can only frame things in, well, there's Remain, and there's Leave, and there's socialism. Well, socialism, in this context, I want to use it as what? As Leave? But then he can't say that because he's a Leaver as well. So he doesn't want to associate himself with socialism. So he has to say it's in the Labour Party, they're split between socialism and Leave. No, they were split between Remain and Leave. Or I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Because I'm confused because he's confusing me. So he's saying that the party is between socialism and Remain. No, it's not that.
Problem for the Labour Party, which is leadership. And Keir Starmer is now the on-the-fence candidate. His policies, he accepts, he actually likes the whole Labour policies, the manifesto. He has no problem with the whole hard left economic policies of Jeremy Corbyn.
But these policies are actually popular with people. I've talked about this before. The policies were popular. The policies are still popular. The problem was the way that they were presented and the way that they were, the people were, voters were overloaded with these policies. Asked individually, do you think this is do you agree with this policy? Many people said yes. Do you agree with this policy? Yes. Do you agree with this policy? Yes. But when they were presented together and they were presented by somebody who was unpopular, then many people overlooked the policy and they looked at who they were voting for to be Prime Minister. I don't think this is so difficult to understand.
Technically speaking, his problem is not the message, it's the messenger. So he's attracting a lot of the socialists for him. On the other hand, when it comes to the European question, he's not as outlandish as Emily Thornberry. So he could also be getting some support from the more moderate side.
Manifesto, Jeremy is the leader, Jeremy's NEC, Jeremy's plan, called at Jeremy's time, and I can tell you on the doorsteps of Wakefield, they had 2 words, and they're not printable. They're not. I can't say them pre-Watershed about what they thought of that strategy.
Did he call you up to say sorry?
I've had no phone calls or messages from anyone in Jeremy or his team, which, given that I was in today, telling my staff that they're going to be redundant a week before Christmas, I think shows that we have in Jeremy a man without honour and without shame, and a type of preening narcissism that means that he thinks he's still got something left to offer the Labour movement and Labour voters who deserted us in their millions.
These are harsh words.
So that's the thing. So Merrick Ray and people like that are going to be potentially backing Keir Starmer for that reason, mainly because of leadership. And we have a situation where people like Stephen Kinnock, who is not he voted Remain, but he's not a Remoaner. He wants to get Brexit done.
He wants to get Brexit done. Okay, but it's not... He's a Remoaner. He's not... But as I've said before, Remain is no longer the issue here. The issue is, do you want a moderate or do you want a left-winger to lead the party? Now, I know you'd prefer to frame it as Brexit, but that's not the case.
He would also be backing potentially Keir Starmer over, obviously, Thornberry, because she's very Remain and...
she's very Remain. So it's like, I'm sort of Remain, but not completely Remain. I'm sort of Leave, but I'm not. It's a bit like, I'm sort of pregnant, not completely pregnant.
Rebecca Long Bailey, because she's very hard left.
Yeah, I think the three main problems were weak and incompetent leadership, the decision to back a second referendum, which I think alienated our vote in leave voting areas, and the manifesto frankly became a Christmas wish list. All three of those issues are interlinked. You can't really disentangle them because they all, of course, played into the perception of Jeremy as a weak and incompetent leader. But there were many reasons for that.
Now, that's all fair enough, but in reality, Keir Starmer has a different problem, because as we've said previously, the Labour Party are obsessed with finding the next leader to be female, and less white, ideally speaking, or culturally white, as they would say, and less middle class. Now, Keir Starmer is white, North London. He's a knight, Sir Keir Starmer, and he's also Shadow Secretary of State for Brexit.
I've said this before, and I said, I don't need somebody else's name tattooed to my head, some past leader, in order to identify and make decisions. I can make them for myself.
Not a Corbynite, not a Blairite.
I am not. I don't need someone else's name tattooed on my head to make decisions. I fundamentally believe that the rejection of austerity that Jeremy Corbyn brought around was right, and that is my own decision.
But what about this personal thing? It is personal. The truth is they're saying this without using your name.
Okay, I just want to stop here because Starmer is right. Like, why do you have to frame yourself as a Corbynite or a Blairite or whatever? Tony Blair wasn't, framed as someone else. I think it makes sense for Keir Starmer to represent himself as someone different. I'm not a legacy candidate. I'm not following in someone else's footsteps. I'm presenting myself as someone different. And I think, look, I'm not an expert, but I think this should work well for him.
Name to try and finish you off before you've even declared for the leadership. What they say is, we can't have a man. We can't have someone from North London. We can't have a Remainer. We can't have someone with a knighthood. What?
So, this is just, who is saying this? We can't have, the party or people are saying, or they're saying, if a candidate is good, if they're able to reach out to people. Look, Boris Johnson was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Boris Johnson went to Eton, and Boris Johnson won a lot of support from the working class. Look, you can't say that because of his background, because of where he's from, because of the way he speaks, because he's a knight, that he can't connect with the working class. A very intelligent politician speaks posh with posh people and speaks rude, if you want to say, with the working class. That's the type of candidate you need. Someone who's able to come down to people's levels. It doesn't matter. You can try to present him as out of touch, but it's his job to present himself as in touch with ordinary people. And I think Keir Starmer can do that. I'm not an expert on him. I don't know him very well. But from what I've seen, I don't think he would be a bad leader. Although the bar has been set pretty low recently.
What they're basically saying is we can't have Keir Starmer.
Now, this is still going to be a problem for Starmer, but in reality, they might actually make that mistake and actually go with him. You think Keir Starmer, they say that Keir Starmer is the biggest option that they have, and Boris Johnson should panic if he becomes the leader of the Labour Party. I'm not really completely sure about this because we have to see how the whole campaign goes. But at least he's not Emily Thornberry. Now, George Galloway, I've said many times, I disagree with a lot of things that he says in terms of politically, but on the other hand, he is anti-establishment and he's made some good points. This is his...
George Galloway is the Scottish, I'm sorry Scottish people, British equivalent of Alex Jones. He just rants and raves.
Points when it comes to Emily Thornberry.
Try his North London neighbour, Lady Nuggie, otherwise known as Emily Thornberry. You know that mad woman that turned up at the Labour Party conference, bedecked in a blue dress with gold stars around her neck, aping the European Union flag, the woman that took a picture of an England flag in a by-election a couple of years ago and had to resign from the Labour front bench. So sneeringly condescending was her comment and implication, inference about the England flag. She thinks an England flag is something to be ashamed of, and a European Union flag is something to wear around your neck, around your torso. You can choose Lady Nuggy if you like, though she's also a multi-millionaire.
So it's a problem if you're a multimillionaire. It's a problem if you have. So this is the framing I don't understand. The right will say, look at Keir Starmer. He's a knight. Look at him. He's a millionaire. Look at him. He has done well for himself. He can't be a good leader. Let's just juxtapose that with Boris Johnson. If Boris Johnson does these things, well, it's because Boris Johnson is great. So if the Labour Party presents someone who's like Boris Johnson culturally or economically, that's bad. But if Boris Johnson, has these same, can I say, virtues, he's good. I don't understand the framing here.
And he's absolutely right. Europe doesn't need another leader who's ashamed of her own country. We already have one, Angela Merkel. I mean, seriously, this sort of behavior.
And see, it's very easy when you take something out of context. Do you know what the context here was? She said that we're not going to become a flag-waving nation. Now, you can agree with that or you can disagree with that. For me personally, I think the optics were not the best. But it wasn't about she hated her country. She said we're not going to become a flag-waving nation. And, you can sort of understand that from the German point of view. Germany has a bit of an issue with nationalism in the past. And the people who wave the flag the most are the people who are the least critical of the problems within the country. They're the people who say, oh, everything is great. If you don't like it here, go back to your own country. I find it ironic that, this YouTuber here has the Union Jack behind him. And the people that he associates with would be very quick to remove him from the UK, would be very quick to send him back to whatever country his parents or grandparents came from. And, I'm the opposite. I think he should be welcome in the UK. I think he should be welcome in the European Union. But the people who he supports wave the flag the most, and they want to maintain a particular Britain that I don't think he would be welcome in.
Could be coming from the Labour Party if Emily Thornberry becomes leader. Is this really what we want as a potential prime minister for a country? And yeah, it's not a good look.
So if somebody waves a flag or is critical of a flag, this is criteria necessary for being prime minister. So it doesn't matter what the prime minister actually does. It doesn't matter if they help people, if they improve society, if they reduce conflict or division within the country. These things are irrelevant. What's irrelevant is whether they like a flag or not, a piece of fabric. Sorry, but that's what it is. It's a piece of fabric. Okay? That's what it is. What's more important is how a government treats people. Does it respect their rights? Does it improve their lives? That's what should be more important. Not a piece of fabric with a few colours on it, and whether somebody likes it or not, or so-called treats it with respect. But this is the argument that Brexiteers have. You must respect the flag. Why? Because it's the flag. Why should I respect it? Because it represents the nation. And what does the nation represent? A set of ideals from 100 years ago. Does this guy not understand that the ideals, when that flag was created, would not allow him to speak in public, would not allow him to own a house? I'm not saying that the flag represents that today, but why are you so in love, in a sense, with a piece of fabric? Why should people revere a piece of fabric? You should revere the people around you. You should be worried about their future, worried about how they're going to manage in today, tomorrow, the day after that. You should be more worried about community, not just about a piece of fabric. But I'm going to end here. I'll link to his channel if you want to watch some of his other videos. I'm sorry, I'm not very impressed. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, of course, and talk to you again in the future. I'm going to have a look at some other channels. I was recommended a number of different Brexiteers, and I'm going to see about doing some videos on them. Thanks.